Hello. So this evening we're going to take a quick look at the Havilland DH112 Venom in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So this aircraft's been out for probably 18 months, 2 years now. It's the sister aircraft of the Vampire, which I featured in a live stream yesterday. So both aircraft were developed by SwissMilSim. And I believe, looking at the modelling of the aircraft, they were released for other simulators before Flight Sim, so they've been kind of upgraded. So in this case, I think this was released for P3D or FSX before, and it's been upgraded to Flight Simulator. Unfortunately, the world has kind of moved on since those simulators, so aircraft that were developed for earlier simulators no really longer cut it. But it doesn't mean it's not fun to fly. But if we look around it, the visual quality of the modelling and the texturing just isn't up to the same standard we've become used to. So you can see here, look, instead of having hydraulic rams or anything like that, or cables, you've got pictures of them. And there's no texturing on some of the objects. They're just very clean three-dimensional objects, which kind of lets it down a little bit. So having a look around, same story, obviously on this wing. If we go and look closely at the panel lines on the wings, they are literally just a texture. There's nothing actually there, which is a bit of a shame. If we come into the cockpit looks good from a distance. And then when you come down into the cockpit, you can suddenly see it's photographic textures, but mapped onto flat surfaces. So it hasn't got the visual quality that more or that later aircraft or ones developed in recent times have got. It still looks okay, and it's perfectly serviceable. It just, it just lacks that bit of polish. But interestingly, though, there are bits and pieces of it, like the straps, that look really good. Anyway, let's go and jump back to the normal camera view within the aircraft, and we'll go and get it fired up, shall we? So we're going to go and close the canopy first. Otherwise we'll get drowned out by the engine starting. We're going to go and put the flight switch to forward, so it's batteries on. So you can hear beeping now as it's discharging the batteries. We can advance the fuel valve over there. We can go and turn on the fuel pump. We can turn on the ignition system. And we have to click very carefully here. We can click the starter, start it going, and then under here it uses a cartridge-based starting system, so it effectively fires like a glorified shotgun pellet, which starts the engine running. Okay, so we'll go and calibrate the altimeter and the gyros, and we'll wait for the engine to start up. As you can see, the sounds don't knit up very nicely, but it doesn't matter that much. So we should see the controls start moving. So there we go, we've got hydraulics all of a sudden. And we've got the control over the spoilers. Okay, so looking down here, we can go and put the pitot heat on now and put the position lights on. And we'll take it for a fly. So we're at Meiringen again. So I downloaded this yesterday from flightsim.to. So it's a community developed project. It's a combination of several different sceneries. It uses I think the DC Designs converted F-18 from the acceleration pack from FSX to put some F-18s on the ground. Okay, so should we go and put head tracking on now? I'm going to scoot myself forward, because if you look outside, it's actually very cramped. Yeah, it's a tiny little cockpit, because it's a very small aeroplane. So I come off the parking brake. Now we have to be mindful in this aeroplane. So we've got the turbine RPM here in thousands. So you're looking to get, up near 10,000 RPM, but not much beyond that. And you've also got the temperature here. So it's very easy to overheat the aeroplane. If you press the throttle forwards too quickly, it will effectively surge the engine and you can wreck the engine. So I'm going to bring the RPM up gently. Just watching the needles down here. So we should have enough to start rolling, and there we go. So I'm going to put the flaps to takeoff position while we're rolling. So we've got it set to early evening here at Meiringen, so this is, because this is the Swiss version of the Venom, or the Swiss livery on it, I am at a Swiss base. So Meiringen is up in the mountains of Switzerland, or in between the mountains I should say. As you can see, it's quite rugged around us. So it should be good fun to go and give this a test flight. It's quite difficult to steer it. They've kind of put a bit of a hack in it that if you touch the toe brakes sufficiently, you can sort of steer it. But it uses adverse brakes, obviously, to... Yeah, I've just managed to open the throttle too quickly there. I'm just doing it gently. Okay, let's see what we're doing then. So, watching the speed, it's in kilometers an hour. So coming up through 150, 200, we want about 250 ideally to rotate. So there we go, so bring the nose up. So gear up. It's a nice looking aeroplane, isn't it? So flaps up. Okay, so if we just scoot over to the left side of the valley, we're not going to stray too far from where we took off from. So obviously it's a fighter jet, it's very much of its era, sort of from the 1950s or early 1950s. So it hasn't got a flying tail, so you will run into compressibility problems if you get too close to the speed of sound. So there's a red and white striped bar on the airspeed indicator. You can run the engine beyond 100%. So it will go past 10,000 RPM. And you'll see the temperature will slowly climb as you do it. If you run at full power for more than about 3 minutes, it will kill the engine. So we're going to be a little bit careful. So it's fairly rapid though, look, we're coming up towards 900 kilometers an hour just in a shallow dive in no time at all. So you could overspeed this quite easily. It's quite a bit quicker than the Vampire. So it might be interesting for us to get a little bit of altitude and try that. But before we do, actually, yeah, we'll do the speed run first. So we'll go down this end of the valley, climbing out. So we're dropping back down to about 700 kilometers an hour. And then we'll turn back in a little while and do a speed run. So we're holding 700 kilometers an hour while maintaining about 1500 feet a minute climb rate, which is not bad at all. So let's have a quick look. So altitude is in kilometers as well, of course, so you need to kind of multiply it by 3 in your head. So we're coming up 12,000 feet or 4,000 meters. Okay, so let's put it in a shallow dive back towards Meiringen and see what happens in terms of... So there's the valley where we took off from over there. So we're going to dive back and let the speed build. So 700, 800... I want to see if we get compressibility problems. Whoa, look, it's losing control. It lifted on its own and the nose is coming up. It's losing elevator control. It's lifting of its own accord. That's very cool that they've simulated that. So we'll slow down a little bit. How about some high G turns then? Now we're above the level of the mountains. So coming into this at just over 700 kilometers an hour, we're going to roll it on its side. Actually, let's go for a roll first. So a nice slow roll. So you do lose, the nose does drop a little bit. So let's try a slow roll with some rudder input as well, like airshow style. Oh, it starts to flick. It's okay though. Right, so high G turns. Feeding in all of the elevator slowly, and we are now at max elevator, and it's really struggling. So you can see the entire inside of the cockpit is vibrating as we do that. We still have good aileron input, even at max elevator deflection, which is good. Okay, so what about stall? If we cut the throttle back to idle, we'll run back down the valley and we'll stall the aeroplane in level flight and see how it behaves. So speed's coming off, we've just dropped through 500 knots. In level flight though, it's not dropping off quickly, is it? Should we go for the spoilers? So they're working. Not tremendously quickly, but back to 400 knots. Okay, let's put it into a gentle climb to bleed the speed off. So the spoilers don't appear to do much. Well, not in terms of braking the aircraft anyway. So we're down to 300 kilometers an hour. Take the spoilers off. So we've got no flaps, so we're starting to get stuttering. Okay, I'll hold the elevator in, see what happens. Rudder doesn't... Oh, the rudder kicks the opposite direction, so it's going to spin. I'm not going to let it go too far, because if it's anything like the Vampire, it will enter an unrecoverable spin. So it has some unique traits, let's put it that way. But it's good fun to fly around if we have a look at it from outside again. It's very much of its era, isn't it? So if we go and open the engine up, we have to be careful, remember. We can set fire to it if we open the engine too quickly. So I'm just gently and smoothly increasing the RPM requirement on the engine. good. I wonder if it will flick roll. So if we were to suddenly give it a boot full of aileron, yeah, it'll flick underneath, look. Oh, it tried to, and then the elevator gave up doing anything. Okay, so we'll just bring it round past this hillside and loop round back in for an approach. So we're at 500 kilometers an hour. We need to bleed some of that speed off. Shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, so there goes the gear. And we've got for flaps as well. Speed is coming off. We need to descend a little bit. Obviously the normal flight path into here is to avoid this hill, not go over the top of it. So we're now too low according to the VASI lights. So we're looking for 2 whites and 2 reds. This is the danger, look. And we would have gone straight into the net, which is great. But that just illustrates how careful you have to be with these older aeroplanes. You don't have the turbine response of a modern jet. That's funny, I didn't actually notice that they'd installed a net at the other end of the runway. So I didn't have anything like that. I couldn't command the turbine response that fast because I would have set fire to the engine because it would have just surged it. Should we do it now to show you it? So I'm rolling in. So I'm going to snap the throttle quickly to 100%. And I've pulled it back again. And it's too late, I've already caused a fire. So it just goes to show, look. And I've killed the engine. Now we need to call the fire brigade. So there you go. There's the, that's 2 vintage aircraft I've wrecked in 2 days. I'm not going to be the best friend of the mechanics, am I? Interesting, the batteries are still obviously powering the lights because we've lost hydraulics and everything else. But anyway, should we open the cabin and gas ourselves? The smoke that's billowing out behind us. Help! Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. So that was the de Havilland DH112 Venom in Microsoft Flight Simulator from SwissMilSim, which I've just completely destroyed while doing a first look at it. So see you again soon. Take care.